स्वागत छ निकिता अनियरमा। साहित्य केवल शब्दको संयोजन होइन, यो समय, समाज र पहिचानको अभिलेख पनि हो। आजको एपिसोडमा हामी यही साहित्यिक यात्राको कुरा गर्दैछौँ र हामीमाझ हुनुहुन्छ सम्राट उपाध्यायज्यू। उहाँको लेखन, उहाँको आख्यान अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय रूपमा पनि वरिष्ठ साहित्यकारको रूपमा जनाइएको छ। स्वागत छ सर यहाँ।
थ्याङ्क यू।
लामो समयसम्म नेपालमा बाहिर बसेर नेपाल आउँदाखेरि हजुरको अनुभूति र लेख्दै गर्दाको यात्रा हजुरले कसरी त्यसलाई अनुभवको रूपमा लिनुहुन्छ? नेपाल आउँदाखेरि आफ्नो स्टोरिजहरूलाई क्रिएट गरेर आई राइट सो लङ इन लिभिङ इन इन्टरनेसनल लाइफ एन्ड when you come back to Nepal, what does it reflect you on the other way?
अब म नेपाल वर्षेनी 2 वर्ष दुईताली आउँछु है। म 21 वर्षको उमेरमा गएको, तर अब नेपालप्रति लगाव धेरै छ। मेरो अब फ्यामिली यहीँ हुनुहुन्छ। अब मेरो वाइफ पनि नेपाली हो, अब छोरी पनि अमेरिकामै जन्मे पनि नेपाली नै जस्तो भइसक्यो। अब म आउँदाखेरि अब वहीँ मलाई लेख्न चाहिँ वहीँ त्यो युनिभर्सिटीको इन्भाइरोमेन्टमा त्यो क्वाइटमा लेख्न चाहिँ त्यसले अलिकति हेल्प गर्छ। अब यहाँ आउँदाखेरि म हरेक वर्ष अब्जर्भ गर्छु कति नेपाली सोसाइटी कति चेन्ज भएको छ भनेर म उ गर्छु। अब इन्टरेक्सनहरूले पनि थाहा हुन्छ। अनि त्यही कुरा चाहिँ म आफ्नो नोभल र सर्ट स्टोरिजहरुमा लेख्छु।
Absolutely, writing is all about reflecting the part of their life. अब हजुरले लेख्दै जाने क्रममा चाहिँ like fictional stories and all of the parts, how do you connect the stories and the characters? How do you reflect in the context of seeing the international life and fictional stories? Like how do you relate in your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I start writing from the idea of a character. So I have an image of a character doing something, and then I start thinking about, well, what kind of issues that the character might be facing. So we are all humans, and we're always facing issues, right? And then I let that image grow. So I work a little bit like poets, because poets allow imagery to develop, one after the other. So I work like that. I don't work with plot outlines. So even in my most voluminous work, like my new novel, Dark Motherland, I wrote like just by hand, without any notion of a plot, and see where the story develops. So character is really important to me while I'm writing.
Yes. So हजुरलाई बधाई छ हजुरको नेपाली एडिसनको डार्क मदरल्यान्ड।
धन्यवाद।
हामी सबैले अवश्य पढ्ने नै छौँ। त्यसै क्रममा जाँदै गर्दाखेरि हजुरको अब इन्टरनेसनल लाइफ यति लामो समयसम्म इन्टरनेसनल लाइफ बिताउनु भयो तपाईँले, त्यही प्रसङ्गमा आर यु थिङ्किङ अफ राइटिङ इन नेपाली कन्टेक्स्ट फर नाउ or you were just going for English international stories?
अब के छ भने I am a Nepali writer. This is a Nepali novel. All of my works are novels about Nepal, except I write in English. So that's the only difference. अब के भयो भने नेपाली भाषा चाहिँ म यहाँ पढ्दाखेरि पनि सेन्ट जेभियर्समा पढेँ पहिला। अनि म एक्चुअली नेपालमा एकदम नेपाली मेरो एकदम राम्रो थियो। मैले नेपाली भ्याल्युवाइड कम्पिटिसनहरू पनि नेपालीमा जित्थेँ। समवेयर अलङ द लाइन टिनेज इयर्समा अब त्यो जे एक्सेस हो आफूसँग, त्यो जेभियर्समा चाहिँ इङ्ग्लिस किताबहरू धेरै राम्रा थिए। त्यो पढ्न थालेपछि मेरो समटाइम आई थिङ्क 15-16मा चाहिँ मेरो त्यो इङ्ग्लिसमा बढी अलिकति लगाव भएर गयो। अनि म अलिक कलिलो उमेरमा अमेरिका गएँ। म 1984मा, I think before you were born maybe. Yeah. So 21 वर्षको उमेरमा गएँ। अब त्यहाँ त ल्याङ्ग्वेज इङ्ग्लिस नै हुने भयो। अनि त्यही भएर so I feel lot more comfortable writing in English and thinking in English. So नेपाली भाषा अलिकति मेरो चाहिँ भनौँ न साहित्यिक लेभलको भाषा चाहिँ अहिले मेरो छैन है। त्यसकारण अब त्यो लेख्नलाई अलिकति टाइम नै लाग्छ। तर I'm at a stage where I feel like I want to take on all kinds of challenges. So maybe my next book will be in Nepali.
That would be absolutely amazing because international stories in English context or we feel very proud because someone is taking the initiative to that level as well. अब त्यसै क्रममा चाहिँ किताब पढ्दै गर्दा हजुरले जसरी अब किताब लेख्ने क्रममा fictional stories are always the imaginative part of the stories. So have you traveled somewhere different places whenever you wanted to write some stories, or it just comes out in your mind randomly and you connect to the fictional parts of the stories?
I don't consciously travel to places to think about writing stories. So when I come to Nepal, for example, in this visit, I'm not like actively looking to see where I can, what I can use for stories. But I think as a writer, I'm observing and I'm sort of just taking it all in, and I trust the process enough that it will appear at some point in my writing. Except if I'm doing very specific research. So, for example, if I'm writing about, like, let's say, a particular neighborhood in Pokhara, then I might go to Pokhara and check out that neighborhood to see. But I normally don't do like very conscious, like, on location research like that. I find that, when I sit down to write, what is relevant will come to me, and what is irrelevant will just disappear.
Thank you for the information. Another just general curiosity of mine is whenever we write a story, there are always the positive sides and the negative sides of the story as well. So whenever you listen to the feedback of the people, you're happy on the positive side, but whenever you listen to the negative critics, like how do you reflect on yourself and how do you take it as the comeback, or you just let it normally and okay, it happens, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think all writers feel that. So I think when I was younger, I might have been a little bit more sensitive to what people were saying, but I mean, this is my seventh book, and I have, I teach and I talk about my writing, and I get feedback from readers, and sometimes you see the reviews and you see online. And I think you start developing a kind of a thicker skin.
यहाँको लागि कथा लेखन कहाँबाट सुरु हुन्छ अनुभवबाट कि कल्पनाबाट
अब त्यो भन्न अलिक गाह्रो छ, मिक्सचर हुन्छ होइन। अब अनुभव भने कहिलेकाहीँ अनुभव पनि चाहिँले पनि कल्पना टाइपको इमेजिनेसनको उसमा जान्छ होइन। अब इमेजिनेसनको रुट पनि चाहिँ एक्सपिरियन्समै हुन्छ कतिताली होइन। तर ओभरअल आई वुड से लाइक इट्स मोर इमेजिनेसन, but then it also becomes complicated because in my imagination I might be taking composites of characters, right? So I could be like, for example, in my next story I could be using you, but I won't be using you. I will use like maybe some qualities of you, and I will use someone else's qualities, and so it's all a blur and all a mess in a way.
So do you take imagination as a very powerful tool of your writing?
I would think so. I think for me as a writer, my imagination is the greatest gift and a blessing, and also in the sense that my imagination allows me to like explore all these different worlds that I wouldn't otherwise experience. Because I think like my own personal life in this physical body is very limited, right? Because I mean I can only be at one place at one time. But in my novels, I can go to any place that I want, right? So here I have created in Dark Motherland, I've created like a dystopian country that is ruled by a dictator. It resembles Nepal, but then some of the characters feel like they're almost fantastical. And obviously that's not a reflection of my life, which is fairly like regular and maybe even boring. So.
I absolutely admire your concept because whenever we read the books and whenever we think about the characters of the book, we always think like, well, how can a writer perceive the thoughts of the imaginative characters? So, yeah, your answer was amazing. So, coming back to the next question, how do you see yourself as a writer in the international platform, and how do you represent yourself coming to Nepal and verbally going to the international context? And how do you reflect on both of the perspectives, or do you want to come back to Nepal and okay, I can sit on the Nepal and write, or okay, I'm fine sitting outside and I'll just write outside?
I don't think about it that much, especially in terms of representation. I don't worry about it. My job as a writer is to just tell a good story as much as I can. I think right now my career is in the US, and I've been teaching at this university for like more than 20 years now. I'm retirement age, but I don't want to retire because I love teaching. I love my students. And I feel like when I come to Nepal, I enjoy Nepal and things like that. So I think at some later point, maybe, धेरै बुढो भएर हिँड्न नसक्यो भने नेपाल आएर बसेर maybe I'll enjoy. Yeah. So it's just a thought. I don't know.
Yeah, because writing को कुरा आउँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब teaching and writing is somehow interconnected. पढाउँदा पढाउँदै गर्दा the connection you build with the students, and
Yeah.
whenever you write, the connection with the book also goes in the same path.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So another context I really wanted, it's my personal curiosity. So whenever someone starts writing, what is the first thought that comes into a writer mind? Fictional stories, going on the fictional context. What was your first thought when you started writing the stories?
Well, I don't. It's not necessarily thought, but it's more an image. So I have to be propelled by image. So maybe it's about a character who's going into a shop and he wants to buy something. Well, what does he want to buy, right? So as a writer, what does he want to buy? And it has to be something substantial. That maybe, and then so if he wants to buy, let's say, some khasiko masu, then maybe there's something involved where he's bringing a guest to feed that khasiko masu. Then the guest might be important. Maybe the guest is a boss that he needs to please, but then the boss is not like, he doesn't get pleased easily. So there's a conflict there. Then, and so I proceed like that.
So could you please provide some ideas for the new coming generations? Because you have faced a lot of, writing struggles when you started writing in your age, you read some different books and you started getting context from that. But for now, in this perspective, in this generation, people are very easy and fond of reading books and writing easily. So could you please provide us some ideas for the newcomers, let's say new writing generation?
Sure, yeah.
And following your legacy as well.
Yeah, well, I think writers need to read. I mean, that's a given. I mean, I don't think you can be a writer without reading. Because I think reading feeds you, reading other people's work, and you should read good literature. You should also read established literature, not only paperback you find in a dime store. So I think that's another thing, one thing, and then the next thing is you should you should create a discipline of writing. So writing big books, writing novels doesn't happen by itself. You need to sit down and you need to create words. So that's one of the things I also tell my students. I teach in the graduate program. I tell them you should also focus on volume. You should write a lot, then you work on revising it and you trim it down and things like that. So.
Getting into the volume of the book, your past stories were a little shorter than compared to your dark motherland. So what triggered you to write a little thicker book now at this time?
Well, I think I was building up to this, big book, and I feel like it's a thing that every writer should attempt. I've been interested in very large narratives, a large canvas, that is expansive and that can tell stories of many different people. So that's how it came about.
So can we expect more kind of ratios of book like Dark Motherland from now?
I hope so. I'm also working on shorter novels, so we'll see.
I would really like to congratulate on your journey, and so your Dark Motherland is very amazing. We'll all read it, and we'll make sure the other students and our other Nepali people will also be proud of your writing.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning with Nimita and Air. We'll meet again on the next episode. For now, bye bye. Namaskar.